Hello everyone, I'm Leslie Cornwell, Certified Nurse Midwife with Midwifery Business Consultation. This presentation is about finding funding for your dream practice. A legal disclaimer we put at the beginning of all of our presentations. This information is for general and educational use only, not intended to substitute for legal, professional, or clinical advice. We strive to keep our information as timely and accurate as possible, but make no claims and guarantees that it is up to date and it fits your unique situation. Objectives: the student will be able to verbalize exactly what does it take to start your own business. The students will be able to verbalize the planning process, the various ways to find funding for your dream practice. This is a really important topic because I hear over and over again from midwives where they only know of the option of using their own time, their own funds, their own once in a while getting a small business association loan, but they start small and exchange their own time and energy and really try to create a slow momentum of their practices opening. So I always challenge midwives to dream big, to set up strong business plans and get the funding, and I can show you the return on investment of getting a team from day one, the benefits. You're going to make more money faster, you're going to have less burnout, you're going to have resources, you're going to make a lot more impact on your community when you can get funding in different directions outside of your own hard-earned cash. And then you have to take 5-10 years to get a practice going versus you could start it in 3 to 6 months depending on what type of practice you want to do. I can promise you, if you can show that a practice is going to be profitable, it's sustainable, you're an expert in the community to this business startup, it won't be an issue getting a bank, an investor, community, nonprofit to join forces and help you get this dream practice going. So part of the goals with this is just to talk about what does your dream practice look like, how do we get it going, what are the numbers look like, because you have to show in a business plan the financial projections, the overhead costs, what do you need to get started, what do you need to maintain it the next 3 to 6 months. So a lot of midwives just don't have the knowledge and skills to create a really strong business plan to help get the funding. So I want to challenge people to reach out to a consultant, to reach out to an SBA business mentor in your area, and figure out how to make a strong business plan. Then you can start looking into different funding options to get that practice started. And it's very difficult without a plan. It's hard to get funding, it's hard to show the financial value, it's hard to show you're the expert, the need, the analysis that you've done to show this is a good, strong, viable practice. When you're looking at funding outside of your own cash, your retirement, your time, you're putting investors, banks, the community on the line for the money, and they need to know that you're going to be successful and why. So once you have a solid business plan, you'd be shocked how easy, especially in today's age, post-COVID, pandemic, community-based healthcare practices are getting so much funding. Maternity care, newborn care, minorities, filling in for cultural diversity across the country has gotten huge recognition across the US. So I really want to stress to midwives, the hard part is not finding the money. The hard part is figuring out what you exactly want your dream practice to look like and making the business plan. Once you get a strong business plan, there's many different options for funding your startup midwifery practice, and we'll talk about the pros and cons of each. So this is the easy one. This is the one everybody tends to think of, and I guess I shouldn't say it's the easy one because it's easy to use this option. It's easy because most of the midwives and most small private practices, this is the route that they go. It takes time to raise up your savings. It's the hard way to go because you're going to cut corners of staff and overheads and budgets right from the beginning. You're going to sacrifice a lot more of your time and mental sanity going this direction. You're going to start small, work solo for a couple years, then add on a partner. You're going to buy supplies basic until you can get to a certain level. It creates this vicious cycle that you're always trying to play catch up with your practice and the funds. I do challenge people, like you can use personal savings to do as a down payment for an SBA loan, and that's a great way to leverage the loans and the debt options around you. But just to be straight cash, straight savings accounts, straight retirement fund contributions to start your own business 100%, is the way most midwives go, and it's definitely the hardest way to be successful long term. You can go to your warm market, you can go to your friends and family, you can talk to them. You're more using the clout of who you are and your reputation, and they know your credibility of what you can do, versus you need so much a business plan with them. They may not want to know some high level questions, but you're not going to need to be nearly as thorough. You can borrow from them, they can donate to your cause, they could be a business partner. There's a lot of different ways you could use family and friends to help get your practice going. Nonprofits, it's a great option to do a donation and do a tax write-off. If you're doing a for-profit, they can still donate to you, but you have to pay taxes on it, and they don't get the benefits of a tax write-off. So it sometimes is a great option if you're needing some collateral for a down payment and you want them to be temporary to donate some funds to your great cause. Maybe you're trying to get a loan for $200,000-$300,000. You're going to need $30,000 to $50,000 down, and you can do that many different ways. You could do it with your own funds, you could do it with investors, you could do it with donations, you could do it with community drives. There's many wonderful ways. So I would say this is the most popular way that I encourage midwives to get a business loan. It's far more favorable than using investors, because investors tend to want more say in the company. Once in a while you can get silent partners, angel investors, but they're going to charge you a lot more interest than what a bank will. The bank loans, particularly with the Small Business Association loans, they're going to give you the best interest rates because the government is backing up your business loan. They will pay and be your collateral for 80-90% of the loan if it goes bad, because there is a high probability with startup business loans. 90% of businesses the first 5 years go under. So it does make investors and banks more anxious to help startups. But with the SBA loan option and the government backing most of the loan, you can get pretty decent terms, especially when there's real estate involved and you're the expert in it, you've got strong grounding. You can get a loan for 15 to 25 years at this point around 5% interest, which is a really great deal when the inflation consumer price index is around 8.5%. You're actually saving money, purchasing power purely by taking a loan with a bank than if you're using your own money. So it's a lot of great options with it. There's a lot of great mentors and resources available with SBA. You just have to look in your local area. There's a lot of consultants that'll help you with SBA business financial agreements, plans, and step-by-step process. I've done quite a few of them. It's actually gotten a lot better the last 10 years with online submission, data collection. They just ask for a lot of paperwork. Sometimes they'll do your personal guarantee, your credit score. Sometimes they'll want you to put your house down as collateral. It just really depends on how risky the business is, how much you're trying to borrow, what's the down payment ratio that you're doing with it. It ranges greatly from 10% all the way up to 35%, depending on if it's for the building. You can do 10% if it's more of supplies, overhead expenses, things that are harder for the bank to collect back. If the person doesn't pay, it's closer to the 25 to 35% down you will need. So venture capitalists is an option. I don't encourage as much for midwives to use this. It tends to be hard because venture capitalists, they want really big scale operations. They tend to not deal with stuff that's hard to not replicate. They like technology, they like products, they like things they can scale to everyone on a large scale. And they tend to want more control of the day-to-day operations. The interest rate's higher. The process is a higher challenge to be successful to get a business loan through them, but it's not impossible. You could find local venture capitalists in your community that really advocate. You'd be shocked talking to your parents, talking to colleagues, talking to people out loud and saying, hey, I'm looking for silent business partners. I'm looking for somebody in the community that's open to wanting to make some money, be in the bank for me for a while. The pros and cons to it are it's usually a lot less paperwork than the government SBA bank loans, but long term you tend to have less autonomy and it tends to be more expensive. But hey, if you only need funding for 3 to 6 months, 12 months, it's a little more of a risky business, but you know the return is really high and you're not so stressed about that short term higher interest rate, it may make more sense to go this direction. So venture capital, they have to really be confident. They're in part of your business typically. They're not so much wanting to be your bank. They want to create a win-win situation. They're going to look for things that get them a higher return on investment. They may be a little more of a risk taker than the bank will be comfortable with. But honestly, with SBA and the government backing those loans, they tend to be, as long as the government approves of the loan, it's a pretty great option to do SBA. You can do crowdfunding, you can do GoFundMe's, you can do auctions, you can do fundraising, different things in your community. If you want a birth center and the community wants a birth center, you can raise money for a couple years. If you're doing a nonprofit, there's a lot of grants, there's a lot of foundations out there, especially nowadays, getting a birth center started. There's so many opportunities on large scales and small scales to get those type of practices going. So just as an overall summary, I really want to challenge to people, there's so many great ways to get businesses going, and you can do your cash. That's the way I see most midwives doing it, but I really like to challenge midwives. If you can have a team sooner, you can have your anxiety decreased, you can have resources, support, especially when you're doing birth call. It's just so demanding and hard getting through the first couple years while you're growing and trying to get a reputation and keep up with the demand, being solo and always playing catch up with your own funding. So it is nice to do an SBA loan. That's the best way I've found for community-based midwifery practices, but every situation is different. Our whole goal is to grow long-term sustainable midwifery practices so that we can support and mentor strong business models and help with the burnout, help with the improving quality of care, increasing access to midwifery services. I would love to help in any way I can with midwives and the different funding options that are out there. And it really depends on most of them. If you're getting funding outside of yourself, you're going to have a good elevator speech, you're going to have a good business plan, they're going to want to know the numbers, the research, the analysis you've done for your community to show this is a good, strong, viable practice.